It's just thousands of tons of rock in that room right now. That room, the whole place was just destroyed. And the other two also. Now, Israel was able to do damage, but we did the final damage. And we have the greatest submarines in the world. We launched 30 rockets from submarines. Every single one of them hit their target.
That was President Trump yesterday, doubling down on his assessment that strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities effectively gutted them. And it comes as we're getting new satellite images that show ongoing activity at one of the blast sites. And it gives us a bit of a fuller view at the extent of the damage. Let's ask General Jack Keane, Fox News senior strategic analyst, of how you assess the damage now about 9 days later.
Yeah, well, I rely primarily on, Israeli intelligence and United States intelligence in providing us, what their assessment is. There's lots of opinions out there, but not all of them are fact-based. And I think we're somewhere between what has happened to Iran's total nuclear program, severely damaged to completely destroyed, and depending on what site we're dealing with. And what that means in the CIA's conclusion and also in the Israeli intelligence service conclusion that the program is set back a number of years. Now, new information will be gathered as we go forward here. But I think one of the things we absolutely have to conclude here is the Iranians, remember, never were serious about negotiations because they always thought they could survive an airstrike, recover, and rebuild. Regardless of whether we're completely destroyed, severely damaged, or somewhere in between, I am absolutely convinced that the Iranians have not given up the idea of having a nuclear weapon. And why is that? It's because it preserves their regime. It's the number one reason why they have it. The other thing is to use it to destroy Israel. So if that's the case, then they're going to assess, and I think that assessment is going on now. They have to get under the ground to see what truly has happened, and they'll begin to recover, and they will begin to rebuild. And when we see that happening, we should hit them again. And don't let it get to enriched uranium close to weaponization. Get it right, get them down right from the start.
And the president said on Friday that without question he would consider that for sure. I wanted to ask you about this then, because Netanyahu says that Iran opened up opportunities to rescue hostages and broad regional possibilities. So that, I think, will be the focus of this week. Behind the scenes, diplomacy, President Trump obviously playing a role there. What should we know about this possible deal?
Yeah. Well, I think there's two things there. He's also talking about regional possibilities in terms of Abraham Accords, so he didn't mention it, in terms of normalization of relationship with Israel by the Arab states in the region. But the temporary ceasefire is most likely. 60 days is what we're talking about in terms of ceasefire. About half of the alive hostages, 10 or 12 being released of the 20, and obviously some of the ones who are deceased, and a prisoner exchange coming out of Israeli detention centers. But the second deal, which is not being discussed publicly, is the end of the war deal. And this is something that the Israelis in the past really never put on the table seriously. But they are now talking about it, and it does have some momentum. The first deal I just discussed is the most likely to take place. But this other one has some legs to it for the first time. And what is it? It means the Israelis would move to the periphery of Gaza, eliminate all of their outposts, at least depart those outposts, all the corridors we've talked about in the past. They're on the periphery. Hamas, the leadership goes into exile. In other words, they leave. Hamas is demilitarized. That'd be a tough one to keep track of. And then the fourth thing is there's a consortium of Arabs, states, who would put together this consortium, and they would be the governing body in Gaza. And obviously, all hostages would be released, alive and deceased, in exchange for some kind of prisoners. That is being discussed. It has obstacles, to be sure. But the fact that the Israelis are serious about that in discussions, I think is newsworthy. And I think probably, Dana and Bill, one of the reasons for that is the enormous success of their campaign against Iran, supported by the United States. And Iran is certainly on its knees and really taken off the board here as a major player. And that gives them opportunities also, obviously, to deal with a much weakened proxy in Hamas and a decapitated proxy in Hezbollah as well.
Fascinating, and so much more to come. General Jack Keane, thank you for joining us on this Monday.
Yeah, you guys have a great week. Thank you.